What's up, gang? What's going on? How everybody doing? Hi, y'all. Shout out to everybody in the chat that's tuned in. What's up, gang? Check this out, right? Now, this live here is a book that I picked up, that I bought. This is one of my first books that I actually bought. That went out and searched for this chart. But I can't just like show a video or no book. You know what I'm talking about? It won't be no fun. So I had to go on and buy it online and show y'all how this book is fascinating. It could be life changing about your history and your religion. And then it will expose all the tricks that the devil playing for the United States. You know what I'm talking about? Now keep this in mind. They already taught y'all was like, yeah, slavery. And the man they told us was like, well, we were chained up, shackled, and walking on the cotton field and picking cotton. And that's all they told y'all about slavery. When it come to it, you were sold, you came over on boats, and that's it. You see what I'm saying? Well, we came over, yeah, you came from Africa. We know we came from Africa, but from where? You see what I'm talking about? Because don't you know where you come from in Africa? Because think about this. What if your ancestry and your people, you know what I'm talking about, your bloodline could be traced back where Jesus was born? Or where Moses was at? Where Moses originated at? You see what I'm talking about? I be thinking about a lot of that. Cause back then, it wasn't even no race. It wasn't no like they hate each other for the color of their skin. The Bible just wasn't preaching the Bible like that. When the Bible talked about slavery, guess what it talked about slavery? They was selling humans. Not just one kind of humans, but all kind of humans in the slavery. So it was a profit. It wasn't nothing about your skin color. We were just the last one to come out of slavery. But when you think about it, we still ain't even out of slavery because our mind still got that slave mentality. You know what I'm talking about? And I was thinking, I'm like, all these cities were founded by black men in the United States. So when you go over there to Africa, you know what I'm saying, look at those names, some of the names that's in Africa. Like you got a Saint James in Africa, Saint Peter in Africa, you know what I'm talking about. So when you think about those kind of names, I'm like, damn. The world kind of really making sense, and it really make the Bible more understandable. Cause God gave you a route when it comes to the Bible. He let you know what's going on. This how the people finna be enslavement. Cause keep this in mind. Moses had servants. You know what I'm talking about? In the Bible, you had kings and everybody had slaves. So it's like this true how they try to let me see. Cause look, slavery ain't just what people just really thinking. White man standing over with a whip and all them. Them the ones that got punished like runaways. You know what I'm talking about? Them the ones that really got punished. When they start using that Willie Lynch leather, how many of y'all familiar with that Willie Lynch? It tells you how. It really basically, if you know I'm from the South. Willie Lynch dropped a letter off in Virginia and told all the slave masters, this how you can control your slave. He told them how to buck break them, meaning that you get a slave, you tie ropes around his arm and stretch his arm out. You do the same thing with the legs and the foot. Put ropes on, stretch it out. And on the other end of those ropes gonna be a horse. 2 horses. Right? And you got to have the whole black community, all your slaves, it's gonna be black, some white, you know what I'm talking about, and other kind of races. But look, guess what? Guess what the outfit the slave had on? Levi jeans. Levi strategy, the number one popular jean that people like the world. Levi jean, his name was Levi strategy. And if you look on the symbol on the back of the pants, it shows you the 2 horses ripping the jean. You know what I'm talking about? So boom. They'll have the horses do a tug of war with your body in front of their slaves to scare you and like, this is what's gonna happen to you if you get out of pocket. Y'all go look their history up. You know what I'm talking about? That's how Levi jeans, you know what I'm talking about? When you pick cotton and all this shit made out of Levi, that's why they were king of the cotton and all this when it comes to the fabric. But like in school, they told you George Washington never told a lie. And I always wonder, like, why would they even say this? Told a lie. That always stuck out to me. So they automatically make me look at him like, something fishy with this story. And he got a wish wig on. And keep that in mind. Now I understand why the presidents, some of them were wearing wigs. They ain't want y'all to see their hair texture. You know what I'm talking about? So it was a lot of shit was going on, and it's still going on right today. So, like for a prime example, right? If you want to be a movie star, we're really a model. Let's start like with a beauty pageant. I'm gonna show you how skin. I'm gonna show y'all about the skin. When you look at the beauty pageant, they select the beautiful woman out their country. Out their country. You're gonna have Africa, Brazil, Cuba, you know what I'm saying? Venezuelans, Bahamas, you know what I'm talking about? Europe, Russia, you know what I'm talking about? China. Now look, when all them top models I just named, right? America and all this. When it come to the black woman, you always gonna have that Ethiopian woman, her shade. They always have An Ethiopian woman with her head shaved, but her skin is flawless. That dark skin, a beauty texture like an olive glass. You know what I'm saying? Cut in petite. You know what I'm talking about? Hold on, y'all. I'ma let I'ma let cause look, cause about the hair. They ain't gonna show you the real her, like, it's like, man, I just can't explain it because the her played a big role in our history. The her play a big role in our history. That's why God had to describe it in the Bible. You know what I'm talking about? It's a reason for that. Hold on, gang. I'm down in my last crumpet. Now look, when it comes to her, when it comes to some, man, look, in my family, some of they hair wasn't kinky because they had Indian in them. And they hair grow like Pocahontas. You know what I'm talking about? They hair touching their backs. Long. You know what I'm talking about? But let's go to my live cam. And this gonna be about 100 facts, 100 amazing facts about the Negro with complete proof. And I'm gonna tell y'all something. You gonna have to buy this book because you can't download this junk. You know what I'm talking about? If you interested in this book, you gonna have to buy it. You can't download it. And then they'll give you a sample of it, they ain't gonna give you the whole book. But it's so fascinating. You know what I'm talking about? Because he finna explain all it is, what we see. So yeah, y'all go check that book out. And hold on, guys. Right here. Now, back in those days, look how a woman was presented. You know what I'm talking about? Woman always had beauty, class, and our culture. You see what I'm saying? These the things that I like about our people. Cause look how beautiful we is, and look at our appearances. You know what I'm talking about? And these old ass pictures. This, you know what I'm talking about? These be pictures. You know what I'm saying? Where some of these pictures might be before Christopher Columbus came to the United States. That's how old them Johns is. You know what I'm talking about? Cause they always tell y'all about the stones, how to carve it, and all of this. You know what I'm talking about? But they ain't gonna never show y'all art when they were drawn with paint. You know what I'm talking about? On paper, pencils and shit. You know what I'm talking about? So I be looking into that. All right. That's the book if y'all wanna interested to be in. And I want to show y'all these pictures, right? Y'all remember, y'all seen that movie Hitler? and he did a DNA test, and he found out he had that Negro blood in him, right? Yeah, look, in your DNA, that's the first thing y'all did when y'all was a child. When you play in colors, you know what I'm saying? You paint with your fingers. See what I'm talking about? So look, this picture what y'all seeing, they did the DNA. Hiller got tested and found out, you know what I'm saying, his family weren't so loyal. You know what I'm talking about? To keeping the bloodline pure. And he got mad. You see what I'm talking about? He, when you think about, that's the reason why that he was interested in just killing on his own people. If you know what I'm saying, they got African in them. You know what I'm talking about? And he was finding this shit out in the middle of the war. You know what I'm talking about? Because of that one blood drop rule. See what I'm saying? So look, he traced his heritage and found out, and he said, and y'all go watch that movie Hitler. They tell you in the movie, yeah, my goddamn uncle was a homosexual or some shit. He brought up, I think his granddad or something. He said, I knew he couldn't keep his dick in the pan because they were having sex with all kind of races. All right. Here go the man. I'm gonna let him explain the man, but I just want y'all to look at the picture, right? Hold on, gang. Let y'all look at the picture. All right. First of all, let me go to this.
100 amazing facts about the Negro with complete proof. 100 amazing facts about the Negro with complete proof. A shortcut. 100 amazing facts about a shortcut to the world history of the Negro by J. A. Rogers, as well as additional information by the author and a biographical sketch by Helga. Pages 2 to 3 of 74. "100 Amazing." J. A. Rogers was born on September 6, 1880 in Negro, Parish, Westmoreland, Jamaica, British West Indies, to Samuel Rogers, a school teacher and Methodist minister, and Emily Johnstone. Emily bore Samuel 4 children, Joel Augustus, Martin, Ivy, and Oswald. When I once asked him where he got the name Joel, his answer was simple: Joel was Samuel's first son in the Old Testament. Joel's mother died in 1886 in Buff Bay, of dysentery, about a month after the birth of Oswald. A grieving widower, crying and all broken up, Samuel soon moved to St. Anne's Bay, where he met and courted his second wife, who bore him another 7 children, the first one born in May 1888. In the meantime, Ivy, born in 1884, was sent to live with her maternal grandmother, who had a girls' school in Savannah-Lamar. Ivy did not cherish that experience, remembering her grandmother as stern and very hard on her. Samuel moved from school to school, always trying to better his financial situation. In the end, he became the manager of a large plantation, Stettin. When we were in Jamaica in 1965, Joel remembered the location exactly, recognizing the roads leading to it, but the estate itself was gone. Joel remembered his stepmother not unkindly. He felt that she had treated her stepchildren well, according to her lights, but that her love was for her own children, and Joel and his brother Martin were none too pleased when they saw her pregnant again and again. Now, there will be even less affection for us. The problem, the way Joel saw it, was with his. Pages 2 to 3 of 74. "100 Amazing Facts About the Negro with Complete Proof." Retold the story throughout his life. He had a number of jobs in New York City, as a delivery man, and worked briefly in a bookstore in Montclair, New Jersey, where he was introduced as our latest arrival from Cuba. He was being passed as white since Jamaicans were considered, regardless of complexion, colored. He did not like that and eventually went to Canada. However, in the New York of 1906 he loved Coney Island, and in later years liked to go there at least once a year. He also enjoyed the cartoon, The Katzenjammer Kids, which was popular at the time. Joel went to Chicago, where he studied commercial art for 9 years, supporting himself as a Pullman porter, only to discover that the only work open to him, even after getting an honorable mention for his work, was as a house painter. He remained a Pullman porter, which paid well, gave him the opportunity to visit the 48 states, and to meet many interesting people until he moved back to New York. Some of his experiences as a Pullman porter were fictionalized in From Superman to Man. Although fictional, the historical facts are true. I have always felt that you hear his voice, meet the man, mentioning all the books he read, the authors, the art he saw. He had been reading all his life, had been deeply impressed by Dumas, by Victor Hugo's Les Miserables, by Plutarch's Lives of Illustrious Greeks and Romans, and had studied the works of Schopenhauer for 10 years. He identified. Pages 2 to 3 of 74. "100 Amazing Facts About the Negro with Complete Proof." Who was she? When did Abraham Lincoln order back into slavery 500,000 or more Negroes who had been declared free by one of his subordinates? 6. What American vice president, because of his color and his features? 100 Amazing Facts. 1. The white population of New York is a third more illiterate than the Negro one. 2. Benjamin Banneker, a Negro astronomer, made the first clock made in America in 1754. 3. The word coffee comes from Kaffa, Ethiopia, where it was first used and where it still grows wild. 4. George Washington sent a Negro slave to Barbados to be exchanged for a hogshead of molasses, a cask of rum and other good old spirits, in 1776. Pages 2 to 3 of 74. "100 Amazing Facts About the Negro with Complete Proof." 5. The Negro arrived in the New World free from tuberculosis and syphilis or other venereal disease. Livingstone, the famous African missionary, and a medical doctor says, syphilis dies out in the African interior. It seems incapable of permanence in any form in persons of pure African blood. Syphilis originated in Europe in 1494, when there was a great epidemic of it. As this was 2 years after the discovery of the New World, it was erroneously believed to have been brought back by the sailors of Columbus. The arts. 6. The Negro was the first artist. The oldest drawings and carvings yet discovered were executed by the Negro peoples over 15,000 years ago in southern France, northern Spain, Palestine, South Africa, and India. The drawings are on rocks, the carvings on bone, basalt and ivory. 7. The oldest known representation of the human body is that of a Negro woman. It was carved by a Negro sculptor of Grimaldi race from 10,000 to 15,000 years ago. It is called the Venus of Willendorf after the place in Austria where it was found, and is in the Vienna Museum. 8. Beethoven, the world's greatest musician, was without a doubt a dark mulatto. He was called the Black Spaniard. His teacher, the immortal Joseph Haydn, who wrote the music for the former. Pages 2 to 3 of 74. "100 Amazing Facts About the Negro with Complete Proof." Austrian national anthem was colored, too. 9. José Vasconcelos, El Negrito Poeta, born of African Congo parents at Almalanga, Mexico, about 1710, wrote verses that were so popular that they entered into Mexican folklore and were printed annually on the calendars of Mexico until 1872, 112 years after his death. Ancient civilizations. 10. The Grimaldi, a Negro race, lived in Europe as late as 12,000 years ago. 2 complete Grimaldi skeletons are in the Museum of Monaco, near Monte Carlo. Abundant traces of their culture have been unearthed in southern and central Europe. 11. Elam, a mighty Negro civilization of Persia, flourished about 2900 BC and is perhaps older than Egypt or Ethiopia. One of its later Negro kings, Kutir-Nakunta, conquered Chaldea and Babylon and brought back to his capital, Susa, rich treasures, among which was the famous statue of the goddess, Nana. Later it became the capital of Cyrus the Great and Darius. Susa is the Shushan of the Bible where Esther, the Jewess, sought the favor of King Ahasuerus of Persia and Ethiopia.
Man, y'all heard that? Now, did y'all just hear that? How they just shot right back to who? Y'all know about the story about Easter in the Bible? Not Easter bunnies and all this. The Lady Easter. The Jewish. Sought to be the favor of the king. Yeah, Easter, a book in the Bible. Right? Now keep this in mind. Guess who they talking about? Us, right? This how you finna. That's why they say DNA a cold thing. You know what I'm talking about? Check this out.
Ethiopia. 12. Cheops, a Negro, built the Great Pyramid, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It is 451 feet high, has 2,500,000 blocks of granite, each 2.5 tons, covers 13 acres, took pages 2 to 3 of 74.
They just showed you who built the pyramids. Once you read the Bible, right? Moses, when they was in Egypt, and we know what they were building in Egypt, the pyramid. And Egypt, you know what I'm saying, Moses killed the man, right? Because he seen the harsh pain that was, you know what I'm talking about, that they were killing their people. Seen another man, you know what I'm saying, strike another man, that he killed them. So, right? So we already know that we got parts of the pyramid, right? So look, bam. Think about this. Where Moses was born. When he related, so once you go to the map, it'll open up your eyes, and God really told us what land is ours. What land is ours. And the same land that is ours, you got troops right now on our shit. That's why our gas so high, our oil, and charging us a fee for it. You see what I'm saying? And they stealing it, taking it anyway, and profiting it off of it. So look, check this out.
"100 Amazing Facts About the 100,000 men 30 years to build and was completed in 3730 B.C. C. 13. There were at least 18 Ethiopian or unmixed Negro rulers of ancient Egypt, the best known of which is Pianki. Leaving his country in Central Africa, Pianki conquered all Egypt to the mouth of the Nile in 750 B.C. 14. The Ganges, the sacred river of India, is named after an Ethiopian king of that name who conquered Asia as far as this river. 15. The most ancient lineage in the world is that of the Ethiopian royal family. It is said to be older than that of King George VI's by 6130 years. The Emperor Haile Selassie I, ruler of Ethiopia, traces his ancestry to King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba and beyond that to Cush, 6280 BC. C. 16. Negroes.
Now y'all see that? Now I'm just showing y'all Haley South. You know what I'm talking about? He traced his back to guess who? King Solomon. Then guess what? That means the man I just showed you got Jesus' bloodline in him. No wonder why he was still king. You see what I'm saying? So that means the man that I just showed you related to Jesus. You can't deny that. So check this out.
Negroes lived in America thousands of years before Columbus. Central American monuments show numerous carving of them as gods. When Columbus came to the New World, Negroes had been crossing from Africa to South America a distance of 1,600 miles. The first white men to reach the American mainland tell of seeing Negroes. Columbus, who visited South America, said that he had heard of them there. 17. The present Negro race of Africa perhaps did not originate there, but Asia and Oceania. The pages 2 to 3 of 74. 100,000 men 30 years to build and was completed in 3730 B.C. 13. There were at least 18 Ethiopian or unmixed Negro rulers of ancient Egypt, the best known of which is Pianki. Leaving his country in Central Africa, Pianki conquered. Earliest inhabitants of Africa were not black but brown. Today, the peoples of mixed and unmixed Negro descent living in Asia and Oceania probably exceed in number the present Negro population of Africa. India has millions of Negroes. The purest Negro types are in Southern Asia. In 1923, Dr. Joseph Rock, United States Department of Agriculture, discovered a hitherto unknown Negro race, the Nakis, 200,000 in number, in southern China. In 1934, E. W. P. Chineri discovered an unknown Negro people in New Guinea, near Australia. He reports that they have a civilization superior to their neighbors, who live under white rule. 18. In the United States Army drafts in World War I, the Negro proved physically fitter than the white man. For every 100 men physically examined, the ratio of colored men found physically qualified for general military service was substantially higher than the ratio of the white men by just 5%, namely 74.60 against 69.71. Illiteracy and intelligence. 19. The peoples of Southern Europe, including Italy, and most of those of Eastern Europe, including Russia, are more illiterate than the Negroes of the United States. In 70 years, Negro illiteracy has fallen off about 80%. In 1870 it was 82%, in 1930, 16.3. Pages 2 to 3 of 74. "100 Amazing Facts." 20. Afro-American illiteracy is 3 times higher than the white one. Nevertheless, when certain states are matched against certain others, there are surprising comparisons. For instance, the Negroes of California, Minnesota, New York, Nevada, South Dakota, Oregon, and Washington are less illiterate than the native whites of white parentage in Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, and New Mexico. New York, Minnesota, Oregon, and South Dakota Negroes are less illiterate than Mississippi whites. The Negroes of these 7 states are less illiterate by 100 to 400% than the foreign-born whites of all the states, save one. 21. In the United States Army intelligence tests during World War I, the Negroes of Pennsylvania, New York, Illinois, and Ohio led the whites of Mississippi, Kentucky, Arkansas, and Georgia by from 1 to 7%. 22. 2 centuries ago, the Negroes of South Africa and the Northern Europeans both practiced a form of cannibalism that was strikingly similar. Of the vital organs of slain foes, the Negroes made a muti, or charm, against evil. Sometimes they ate the heart of a brave man, believing that it gave added courage. The Europeans would roast or dry the bodies of hanged criminals. Of these they made mumia, a medicine for internal and external use, which was supposed to have peculiar.
Man, that's kind of, you know what I'm talking about. So look, cannibalism been going on. And I want to know, is it still going on? Because I believe it done got worse. You see what I'm saying? I believe it done got goddamn it worse. Because look at today's murders. When you look on the news, they starting to find people without their body parts. Look at Jelani Day. His organ gone, but they said they liquefied, you know what I'm talking about, and all this old shit. And then when it come to murder, then you got funeral homes and these people like, yeah, we took your heart and kidney. And you got to look at some of those buyers. You see what I'm saying? Man, that shit be on the food market. I would read somebody comment in the chat last night, right? And I ain't gonna lie, you know what I'm saying? That shit was fun as hell. But it ain't funny. But that shit had me intrigued because they said, yeah, they got holidays and shit when they pull their cookbooks out, goddamn it, and they recipes how to cook us. And I was like, man, you sure ain't lying because that's for real. Because you had soldiers doing that. Now, if you fighting in the desert and think about the game, if you got battle that's in the desert and you slaughter all these men and everything, but you don't never got no massive grave site that where you know what I'm talking about, bury your ops, you know what I'm saying? No bones, no skeleton, and you in the desert. I know the meat source is kind of thin. I mean, they're just like you send U.S. troops over there in Las Vegas, right, in the big ass desert and shit, and go to war. What they gonna eat? Lizards and shit? You know what I'm talking about? Then they gotta catch a lizard, they gotta catch a fox, and then 2-3 foxes ain't finna fill up no goddamn army. You see what I'm talking about? So you gonna be having motherfucker dying like a motherfucker. So guess what? What I think, if they went to war and you kill you on the battlefield and your op right there on the battlefield dead, it's about 1,000 of them. Where they skeletons at? Sound like somebody threw a big ass barbecue. Yeah, give me that one over there. That's the one I killed. Give me little Snoop Snoop. Boy his ass up and made a hands and foot dish. You see what I'm talking about? I'm just looking at it like that because it is cannibalism. People practice this shit. You know what I'm talking about? Especially when you know what I'm talking about? Cause you ain't like you can stop the fight and go get you something to eat. You know what I'm saying? You'll go die starvation. You know what I'm talking about? See, what else you gonna eat? You ain't got no plants, no grass, none of that. Just straight mud and sand. Couple of cactus right here. You know what I'm talking about? If it's like that, I'm gonna be the fattest nigga at the group. Shit. Yeah, let me make y'all some of this op dish. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? Man, let me stop game before I get started. You know what I'm talking about? But I'm just trying to look back in those days. Because you didn't have police like we got police today. Like we ain't got no army invading us and doing this shit to us. You know what I'm talking about? But they just let you know how long this shit been going on before we even got here.
Peculiar. Curative charm. In 1683, when the Germans defeated the Turks at Ofen, Switzerland, thousands of surrendered Turks were treated in this manner. An army surgeon, who was present, wrote, "None were given grace. All were massacred, and in most cases they were skinned, the fatty parts were roasted, and the genitals cut off, dried, and put into big sacks. And of this they made precious mumia." Regular cannibalism existed in Germany as late as 1650.
Now these high class documents right here, they been doing this shit. No wonder why. And think about all the diseases they were breaking out in those days, like the Black Plague, and you know what I'm saying? You got to think about all of that. You see what I'm talking about? What you say, Trey Gang, you a fool. I know. Shit. I'm gonna be worse than Jeffrey Dahmer in that motherfucker. Put me on the battlefield. I got an AR, couple of bomb scraps. Ain't no buffaloes around this motherfucker. No pigs. You see what I'm talking about? What else I'm gonna eat? Ain't like I can't leave my gun post, my sniper position, cause I'm hungry. See, the nigga I'm looking at through the telescope, my goddamn lunch. So yeah, you know my body count gonna be real high. Pow, pow, and the motherfucker better not touch him. Yeah, that's for me and the game. You did what I'm talking about. Yeah, I get to pick the best parts off this nigga. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I bite that nigga up, you know what I'm saying, forehead or something. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I let them suckers over there get the booty cheeks. Yeah, I get ass to the suckers. You know? Yeah, y'all get that piece. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, give me that nigga hands and foot, goddamn. You know what I'm talking about? Make a big ass foot hand sandwich around this bitch. Yeah, let me stop. Let me stop. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I come back from the service, goddamn. I'm like, damn, Trey ain't got big in the motherfucker. Yeah, that nigga down there, shit, 400 pounds. Yeah, shit, I had to eat up all my ops. No wonder why you ain't got no mass grade sites and they telling everybody, yeah, he was 1,000, a couple of 100,000 men died on this battlefield. Oh yeah, where the skull heads at? You looking for the skull head. Shh. What you say? They got booty cakes. Just imagine though. Just imagine you going into them underground restaurants. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think I want to be a part of that shit. I'm glad. I'm glad I'm in this generation. Cause back then, ain't no tell what type of person I'll be. You know what I'm talking about? But yeah, check this out though.
1650. Exploration. 23. Estevanico, a Negro from Morocco, was one of a party of 4 to cross the North American continent in 1536 for the first time. The journey took 9 years. In 1539 he headed an expedition that discovered Arizona and New Mexico. Estevanico's travels served to open up the Southwest and the states west of Florida, as far as the Pacific. 24. The founder of the city of Chicago was Baptist Point de Sable, a Negro, in 1779. 25. Tipu Tib, a Negro trader in slaves and ivory, from Zanzibar, East Africa, was the first civilized man to penetrate the center of Africa. He explored territory nearly as large as the United States. Stanley, Weisman, Cameron, and other white explorers followed in his path. He died in 1905, very rich. 26. For 2,234 years human beings had been trying to reach the top of the world. Thousands of lives and millions of dollars were lost in the attempt. On April 6, 1909, Matthew Henson, a New York Negro, was the first of a party of 6 to do so. He is now, 1943, the only human being alive to have stood there. The first Arctic explorer was Pytheas, a Greek, who perished in the attempt in 325 B.C. Science and invention. 27. Jan Ernest Matzeliger, a Dutch West Indian Negro living in Lynn, Massachusetts, invented the first machine for sewing the soles of shoes to the uppers. This invention, which was 11 years in the making, revolutionized the industry and gave shoe supremacy to the United States. It made several millionaires, one of whom left $4 million to Harvard University. Overwork and privation hastened Matzeliger to his grave in 1889 at the age of 37. He left a few shares of stock to a white church, which later saved it from being sold for debt. 28. George Washington Carver of Tuskegee Institute, one of the world's greatest agricultural chemists, was awarded the Roosevelt Medal in 1939 for distinguished service in the field of science. From the peanut he has extracted 285 products, and from the sweet potato, 118. Dr. Carver was born a slave. Thomas Edison once offered him a large salary to take charge of one of the Edison laboratories, but Carver refused in order to continue the work he had begun with Booker T. Washington at Tuskegee Institute. Jews and Ethiopians. 29. The Mohammedans believe that Moses was a black man. Their Bible, the Quran, says so. God told Moses to put his hand into his bosom. The Quran says that it came out white. The commentators declare that Moses' hand could not have been white before, and that the miracle Jehovah intended was making the black skin white, and then turning it black again. The Septuagint, or Greek Bible, agrees with the Quran. 30. The characters of the Bible are largely Negroes. The Jews were slaves to the Egyptians for nearly 430 years. Only 70 Jews went to Egypt with Jacob. The Bible says that 600,000 men left with Moses, which according to Haushofer, meant a total of 3,154,000 with women and children. For this large number to have left mixing with the Egyptians, who were black, must have taken place on a vast scale. About 12 million Negroes were brought to the New World. Imagine how much of their original color and culture the latter would take with them should they return to Africa, and you realize how much of the original Jew remained in only those 70 Jews after 4. Pages 2 to 3 of 74. "100 Amazing Facts About the Negro with Complete Proof." Jews and Ethiopians. 29. The Mohammedans believe that Moses was a black man. Their Bible, the Quran, says so. God told Moses to put his hand into his bosom. The Quran says that it came out white. The commentators declare that Moses' hand could not have been white before, and that the miracle Jehovah intended was making the black skin white, and then turning it black again. The Septuagint, or Greek Bible, agrees with the Quran. 30. The characters of the Bible are largely Negroes. The Jews were slaves to the Egyptians for nearly 430 years. Only 70 Jews went to Egypt with Jacob. The Bible says that 600,000 men left with Moses, which according to Haushofer, meant a total of 3,154,000 with women and children. For this large number to have left mixing with the Egyptians, who were black, must have taken place on a vast scale. About 12 million Negroes were brought to the New World. Imagine how much of their original color and culture the latter would take with them should they return to Africa, and you realize how much of the original Jew remained. In only those 70 Jews after 4 centuries. Tacitus, Roman historian of 90 AD, says that the Romans of his day popularly believed that the Jews, which then abounded in Europe, came from Ethiopia, the land of the blacks. The present white color of the European and American Jew is very likely due to the same cause, as the fair skin and straight hair of large numbers of Negroes. The Bible classes. The Ethiopian and the Jew together, are ye not as the children of Ethiopia unto me, O children of Israel, saith the Lord. Chaldea, the land in which the Jews originated, was also a Negro land, hence Abraham might also have been black. 31. The Falashas, or Negro Jews of Ethiopia, led by Queen Judith, put the line of Solomon and the Queen of Sheba off the throne of Ethiopia in 937 AD, and ruled for 40 years. The Falashas assert that they are the original Jews. They call themselves the Beta Israel, or the chosen people. 32. The Negro Jews of India are not permitted to enter the same synagogues as the white ones, nor to bury their dead in the same cemeteries. Medicine. 33. Imhotep of ancient Egypt was the real father of medicine. He lived about 2300 BC. Greece and Rome had their knowledge of medicine from him. In Rome he was worshipped as the Prince of Peace in the form of a black man. His Ethiopian portraits show him a Negro. Imhotep was also prime minister to King Zoser as well as the foremost architect of his time. The saying, "Eat, drink, and be merry for tomorrow we die," has been traced to him. Hippocrates, the so-called father of medicine, lived 2,000 years after Imhotep. 34. Ibn Ali, an African Negro, was private physician to Charles VII, King of France, 1403 to 1465. When the king fell dangerously ill at Toulouse, Ibn Ali was sent for and he cured him. Thereafter the king made him a member of his suite. 35. Dr. C. Tavares, an African Negro, was the private physician to King Carlos I of. Pages 2 to 3 of 74. "100 Amazing Facts About the Negro with Complete Proof." Portugal until the latter's death in 1908. 36. Dr. Daniel Williams, Chicago surgeon who died in 1931, was the first to perform a successful operation on the human heart. Politics. 37. France has had 6 colored cabinet ministers: Severiano de Heredia, 1887, Senator Henri Lemery, 1915 to 1918, and 1934, Alcide Delmont, 1928, Blaise Diagne, 1931, Gradient Candace, 1932, Gaston Monnerville, 1937. De Heredia, as Minister of Public Works, built some of France's finest roads. 38. Eugene Chen, one of the most dynamic political figures of the present century, and Minister of Foreign Affairs for China in 1927, was born of Chinese Negro parentage in Trinidad, West Indies, in 1878. He was also secretary to Dr. Sun Yat-sen, first president of China. Race mixing. 39. Persina, a queen of Ethiopia, 60 B.C., presented her husband, Hydaspes, with a light-colored child, which color is strange among Ethiopians. She declared that it was due to the presence of a white statue in the room at the time of conception. Similarly, Maria Theresa of Spain and Austria, wife of Louis XIV, King of France, bore him a mulatto daughter in 1665. The queen spent most of her time with a Negro dwarf named Nebo, while the king passed most of his with the beauties that thronged his court. The doctors explained the color of the child by saying that the black man looked at the queen. "It must have been a very penetrating look," said the king, wrathfully. A noted writer of that time attributed the color of a similar child, born to a high noblewoman, to the mother's fondness for chocolate. 40. Anna, a Negro.
Now y'all heard that? You see what I'm saying? These got some outrageous story. Look, think about it. They already were buying little dwarfs, kids, and all this. So this lady bought a dwarf, let the dwarf hit, end up getting pregnant by the dwarf, and told everybody the reason why the child came out the way it was, because she had a fondness for chocolate. What kind of chocolate it was? That sneaker bar, bitch. See what I'm talking about? You see what sneakers would do? You know what I'm talking about? I'm telling y'all, man, I'm looking at this shit like that's what they were getting away with. You know what I'm talking about? Well, why is this?
Servant girl of Calavecchio, Italy, wife of a white mule driver, became the concubine of Pope Clement VII. Her son, Alessandro, born 1511, became reigning Duke of Florence, and married Margaret, only daughter of the Emperor Charles V, ruler of Germany, the Netherlands, Austria, and Spain in 1536. 41. White American slaveholders used to induce white women to marry Negro slaves in order to hold the women slaves for life. 42. Thomas Jefferson, third President of the United States, and father of the Declaration of Independence, was the father of a large number of mulatto children. His wife protested loud and long to no avail. Patrick Henry, another signer of that document, had a Negro son named Melanchthon. 43. Napoleon planned to solve the color problem in Haiti by making it legal for each man to take 3 wives, one white, one mulatto, the other black. He had several conferences with the theologians on this grand measure, and tried to win the consent of the Pope. Pages 2 to 3 of 74. "100 Amazing Facts About the Negro with Complete Proof." 44. In 1787, while a party of 351 freed Negroes was aboard ship at Portsmouth, England, en route to Sierra Leone, West Africa, the authorities brought on board 62 white women, prostitutes and others, whom they wished to get rid of, and married them to as many men, and sent them off to be the future mothers of the colony. 45. In the 1850s, Mrs. Laban, an Englishwoman, was Queen of the Slave Traders at Rio Pongo, one of the principal slave posts in West Africa. She had a fort armed with cannon and armed by 300 devoted blacks. She had 3 mulatto children by a Negro, a boy, and 2 girls. One of the latter married a white slave trader, and the other, a British consul. 46. The Countess de Beauharnais, who was related by marriage to Napoleon, married a full-blooded Haitian Negro, named Casting, who was a member of the Paris Convention of 1792 to 1795. Religion. 47. The oldest and most noted statue in the world bears the face of a Negro. It is the Sphinx of Gizeh, which was worshipped as Horus, Cr Harmachis, the sun god of light and life. It was erected about 5000 B.C. The devil, which is now depicted as black, was once portrayed as white. When the black man dominated the planet, he painted the forces of evil white. When the whites came into power, they shifted the colors. But as late as 1500, the Ethiopians still depicted their gods and heroes black, and their devils and villains white. Father Fernandez, a Catholic missionary, who worked amongst them at this time, says, "They paint Christ, the Blessed Virgin, and other saints in black form, and devils and wicked men white. Thus Christ and his apostles are black and Judas white. Annas, Cephas, Pilate, Herod, and the Jews are white, while Michael is black, and the devil white." 48. Nearly all of the ancient gods of the Old and New World were black and had woolly hair. Buckley says, "From the woolly texture of the hair I am inclined to assign to the Buddha of India, the Fuyi of China, the Zaha of the Japanese, and the Quetzalcoatl of the Mexicans, the same and indeed an African, or rather, a Nubian origin." In the Bible, God, or the Ancient of Days, is described as having hair like the pure wool. The earliest statues of the Virgin Mary and Christ in Europe as far north as Russia were black and negroid. 49. The Bible really originated in ancient Egypt, where the population, according to Herodotus and Aristotle, was black. Here the Jews received almost all of their early culture. Professor Breasted, leading Egyptologist, says, "The ripe social and moral development of mankind in the Nile Valley, which is 3,000 years older than that of the Hebrews, contributed essentially to the formation of Hebrew literature. Our moral heritage therefore derives from a wider human past enormously older than the Hebrews, and it has come to us rather through the Hebrews than from them. 50. Psalms that read like those of the Bible were written by a pharaoh, Amenophis IV. Pages 2 to 3 of 74. "100 Amazing Facts About the Negro with Complete Proof." Better known as Akhenaten, the heretic king, 1300 BC or more than 400 years before David was born. Akhenaten, who was the father of Tutankhamen, was extremely Negro in type. He is called the most remarkable of the pharaohs. 51. Ethiopians, that is Negroes. Better known as 51. Ethiopians. Better known as 51. Ethiopians, that is Negroes, gave to the world the first idea of right and wrong and thus laid the basis of religion, and of all true culture and civilization. The earliest exposition of this yet found is in the so-called Memphite drama, which is known only through a copy on a slab of basalt made by order of an Ethiopian king in 700 BC. 52. There were 3 African popes of Rome: Victor, 189 to 199 AD, Melchiades, 311 to 312, and Saint Gelasius, 496 AD. It was Melchiades who led Christianity to final triumph against the Roman Empire. 53. The celestial saint of Germany is Saint Maurice, a pure Negro. While in command of a Roman legion in Gaul, Switzerland, in 287 AD, he refused to attack the Christians when ordered to do so by the Emperor Maximian Herculius, for which he was killed. His picture is in many German cathedrals and museums, sometimes with the German eagle on his head. Recent pictures of Hitler, nearly 1,700 years later, show Hitler also with the same emblem on his head. Rulers. 54. On November 15, 218 BC, Hannibal, a full-blooded Negro, marching through conquered territory in Spain and France, performed the astounding feat of crossing the Alps. With only 26,000 of his original force of 82,000 men remaining, he defeated Rome, the mightiest military power of that age, who had 1,000,000 men, in every battle for the next 15 years. Hannibal is the father of military strategy. His tactics are still taught in the leading military academies of the United States, England, France, Germany, and other lands. 55. Yusuf, a king from Upper Senegal, Africa, saved Moorish civilization in Spain in 1086. The Moors were being pushed out by the white Christians of Germanic descent. Yusuf crossed the Strait of Gibraltar with only 15,000 men, most of them pure blacks, and with 10,000 more from the Moors met the white king, Alfonso VI, at Salaka. The latter had an army of 70,000, nearly 3 times as great, but Yusuf inflicted a terrific defeat on him. The flower of white knighthood was destroyed in that battle. Among those who fell later before the military prowess of Yusuf was Rodrigo Diaz de Bivar, known as the Cid, and the greatest figure of the heroic age of Spain. 56. In 1538, Askia the Great, Emperor of Songhai, ruled an empire that stretched from the Atlantic Ocean to Lake Chad, and larger than Western Europe. His capital was Timbuktu. 57. The First World War in history was started by Abraha, Negro emperor and ex-slave, when he attacked Mecca, Arabia, in 569 AD. This war lasted for more than 1,000 years and stretched from France to beyond China. It brought about the fall of several great empires, one of them the later Roman Empire, capital Constantinople in 1453 AD.
So you mean to tell me that was the first world war in history? Started by a Negro empire and ex-slave when he attacked Macon? You know what I'm talking about? Y'all know what Macon is, ain't it? That's where everybody, all the Muslims go, religious people go pray around that monument, whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but they pray around it. And remember that movie Malcolm X when he said when he went over there to Africa and over there in Macon, when he became that's when he opened his eyes. When he came from over there in Macon and came back to the United States, he was a totally different man. You know what I'm talking about? It's a reason for that. Cause once he found out, that's why he said, I ain't see no race problem. He said he bowed down with all races. And you see that on TV when they show it. You bow down with all the races come together. So it ain't no racism. You know what I'm talking about? Cause he said I prayed with the white man, Chinese man, the yellow man, the blue man, you know what I'm talking about. So check this out.
'58. Muley Ismail, Emperor of Morocco, whose mother was a Negro slave, had 25,000 white slaves captured on the seas or on the coasts of Europe and the British Isles, to build his palace at Meknes. Muley Ismail's stables were the vastest in existence with stalls for 12,000 horses. Muley Ismail's ships raided the coasts of Europe for slaves until his death in 1727. 59. John VI, King of Portugal, a dark mulatto, was the maker of modern Brazil. Transferring his throne to Rio de Janeiro in 1808, he ruled Portugal from Brazil. This is the first and only time a European country has been ruled by an American one. 60. Pedro I, colored son of John VI, became first emperor of Brazil in 1822. Pedro I married the sister of Napoleon's second wife. Gloria, Pedro's daughter, became Queen of Portugal and was a sister-in-law of Victoria, Queen of England. Many members of European royalty trace their ancestry to the Negro ruler, John VI. 61. Jean-Baptiste Bernadotte, a colored man, was the founder of the present royal family of Sweden. Enlisting as a private in Napoleon's army, he rose to be field marshal. In 1818 he ascended to the throne of Sweden as Charles XIV. 62. Sitweo, King of Zululand, South Africa, massacred an entire British army sent against him in 1879, and a few days later defeated and killed the Prince Napoleon, heir to the French throne. Sitweo taught the Europeans the skirmish line in warfare.
Oh, that's how Napoleon died. That's how Napoleon died. No wonder why he went over there to Africa and shooting the nose off. You know what I'm talking about? The statues. You know what I'm talking about? Because he over there starting shit. Oh! That really make you think of right back at Egypt. Because there was Napoleon shot the statue, the nose and stuff. And then where a battle happened at. Now, I did learn that. I did learn that. I seen that shit on the History Channel. So that means a black man killed Napoleon.
Warfare. Slavery. 63. The word slave was originally applied to white people. It comes from Slav, a Russian people captured by the Germans. 64. The first slaves held in the United States were not black, but white. They were Europeans, mostly British, who died like flies on the slave ships across. On one voyage 1,100 perished out of 1,500. At another time 350 out of 400. In Virginia, white servitude was for a limited period, but was sometimes extended to life. In the West Indies, particularly in the case of the Irish, it was for life. White people were sold in the United States up to 1826, 50 years after the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Andrew Johnson, President of the United States, was a runaway, and was advertised for in the newspapers. 65. Between 1526 and 1859 there were 33 slave revolts in the United States, one of which was that headed by Nat Turner of Virginia in 1831. With only 6 companions, Turner set out to free the 3 million slaves. The United States Marines and 2 warships were sent against him after he had killed 55 whites and captured several plantations. The Seminoles, or runaways of mixed Indian and Negro descent, of Florida, fought 3 wars with the United States to preserve their freedom.
Now check this out. This where I come in at. Cause in my DNA, that's what kind of Indian I am. A Seminole, the Seminole mixed with the African. See what I'm talking about? And I did a DNA. I was like, Seminole. I did a research. I was like, damn, I can't even believe it. So I searched that tribe and I said, damn, I can't believe my eyes of the people that I'm looking at. Cause you don't never know. They could be your cousin, uncle, great grandma, you know what I'm talking about. And I know they ain't lying right here, cause my grandma was telling me some story when they was, man, this getting deep.
Freedom. 66. In 1670, Virginia passed a law forbidding Negroes from buying white people. This was 51 years after the Negro had arrived in chains. The same law was repeated in 1748. Free Negroes bought white people in such numbers in Louisiana that the state made a similar law in 1818. Pages 2 to 3 of 74. 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro with Complete Proof. 67. White children were kidnapped in the British Isles at the rate of several thousands yearly in the 17th and 18th centuries and sold into slavery in America and the West Indies. Sometimes they were bootlegged and sold as Negroes. White Americans, North and South, were also kidnapped or seduced and sold as Negroes as late as 1859. One of the most celebrated cases of a white person sold as a Negro was Sally Muller, who was held in servitude in Louisiana for 26 years. Court after court ruled against her. Finally, her birth certificate was dug up in Germany and she was freed by the Supreme Court in 1818.
And that's another thing I ain't know at first. That these people was, if they had the demands of a baby, a black baby, they had white kids and proposing them as black. You see what I'm saying? Now that's real. Now that if you don't call that satanic.
68. Prince Abdel Rahman, a highly educated grandson of the Emperor of Timbuktu, was captured in battle and sold into slavery in America. Years later, a white doctor, who had traveled in his land, saw him at Natchez, Mississippi. Rahman was freed in 1829. $4,000 was paid for the liberation of his children. 69. In 1860 there were 487,000 free Negroes in the United States, some of whom owned slaves. C.D. Wilson estimates that there were 6,230 Negro slaveholders. The tax returns of Charleston, S.C., for 1860 showed 132 Negro slaveholders with 390 slaves. The Negro slaveholders, like the white ones, fought to keep their chattels in the Civil War. 70. The Brazilian Emancipation Proclamation of 1888 freed all the slaves on the day of promulgation. The British Emancipation of 1834, not until 4 years later, while the American Emancipation Proclamation of 1863, when issued, freed those slaves whom Abraham Lincoln had no power to free, and permitted the continued enslavement of those whom he had the power to free. 71. In Arabia and parts of North Africa, white persons, mostly women, are still held as slaves, as are many Negroes. Sometimes the owners of these white slaves are Negroes. Sports. 72. The fastest bicyclist the world has ever known was Marshall Major W. Taylor. He defeated the champions of Europe and America. His greatest feat was the winning of the 1-mile motor-paced race in 1 minute, 19 seconds. He died in 1932 at the age of 54. 73. The Afro-American, though but a dot in the world's population, holds, or has held, an unusually high percentage of world athletic championships. There have been 13 world boxing champions. Jack Johnson and Joe Louis, heavyweight; John Henry Lewis, light heavyweight; Tiger Flowers, middleweight; Joe Walcott, Dixie Kid; Jack Thompson, welterweight; Henry Armstrong, 3 titles, welterweight, lightweight, bantamweight; Joe Gans, lightweight; George Dixon, 2 titles, bantamweight and featherweight. Negroes have held 10 Olympic titles. DeHart Hubbard, Broad Jump, 1924. Eddie Tolan, 2 titles, 100 meters and 200 meters, 1932. Ed Gordon, Broad Jump, 1932. Cornelius Johnson, High Jump, 1936. Jesse Owens, 3 titles, 100 and 200 meters and Broad Jump, 1936. John Woodruff, 800 meters, 1936. Archie Williams, 400 meters, 1936. National and university titles, and world record-breaking titles, in sports have been held by the hundreds. Of 12 intercollegiate championships competed for on June 1st. 1940, Negroes won 8. Warfare, Commanders. 74, the Rock of Gibraltar, the symbol of stability, is named after a Negro ex-slave. It is a corruption of Jebel Tariq, or the Mountain of Tariq. Tariq, who was a Moor, captured the rock which was then called Kalpa, in 711 AD. Later he conquered southern Spain. Tariq's countrymen thereafter ruled Spain for 700 years. 75. Abraham Hannibal, captured as a slave in Africa, was adopted by Peter the Great as his son and taught military engineering. Later Hannibal became tutor to the heir to the throne, and commander-in-chief of the Russian army. He died in 1782 at the age of 90, owning vast estates and 2,000 white slaves. 76. Toussaint Louverture and his great mulatto rival, General Rigaud, were both thrown into the same dungeon in France by Napoleon in 1802. Later at St. Helena, Napoleon declared that the imprisonment of Toussaint was a grave political error. 77. Toussaint Louverture had planned after Haiti was freed to go to Dahomey, West Africa, and use it as a base from which to fight the slave trade. For this purpose he saved 6 million gold francs, equivalent to that sum in dollars now, which he entrusted to Stephen Girard, an American ship captain. After the treacherous capture of Toussaint, Girard would not turn over this money to Toussaint's family. During his 9 months' imprisonment, Toussaint was tormented by Napoleon's agents to reveal the hiding place of the money. Later Girard, a Frenchman by birth, became the richest American of his day. He left millions on his death in 1831 for the founding of Girard College in Philadelphia, stipulating that it should be for whites only. He also gave money to buy coal for the poor of Philadelphia, with the same provision. 78. Jean-Francois, leader of the Haitian blacks in 1791, an ex-slave and once superior officer of Toussaint Louverture, rose to be a grandee of Spain. This gave him the privilege of calling the King of Spain cousin, and wearing his hat in the royal presence. He was a favorite at the court of Madrid. 79. Napoleon had 12 West Indian Negro generals, who served in France, namely, General Alexander Dumas, once Napoleon's superior officer, André Rigaud, Marshal Besse, B. Levier, Antoine Claulat, J. B. Belly, Magloire Pelage, Alex Pétain, A. Chanlate, Barthélemy, Villate, and Etienne V. Mentor. 80. Muhammad Ahmed, called the Mahdi, an ex-waiter of the Sudan, defeated every army that England sent against him, one of which was 11,000 strong. At his death in 1885, he had carved out for himself an empire in Africa, 1,600 miles long and 700 miles wide. Among those killed by the Mahdi was the famous English general, Chinese, Gordon. 81. One of the most daring leaders of the Filipinos against the American troops in the Philippines in 1899 was an American Negro deserter, named Fagin. A short story based on his life by Roland Thomas, noted American writer, won first prize of $10,000 in A. Pages 2 to 3 of 74. "100 Amazing Facts About the Negro with Complete Proof." 1940, Negroes 1-8. Warfare, Commanders. 74. The Rock of Gibraltar, the symbol of stability, is named after a Negro ex-slave. It is a corruption of Jebel Tariq, or the Mountain of Tariq. Tariq, who was a Moor, captured the rock which was then called Calpe, in 711 AD. Later he conquered southern Spain. Tariq's countrymen thereafter ruled Spain for 700 years. 75. Abraham Hannibal, captured as a slave in Africa, was adopted by Peter the Great as his son and taught military engineering. Later Hannibal became tutor to the heir to the throne, and commander-in-chief of the Russian army. He died in 1782 at the age of 90, owning vast estates and 2,000 white slaves. 76. Toussaint Louverture and his great mulatto rival, General Rigaud, were both thrown into the same dungeon in France by Napoleon in 1802. Later at St. Helena, Napoleon declared that the imprisonment of Toussaint was a grave political error. 77. Toussaint Louverture had planned after Haiti was freed to go to Dahomey, West Africa, and use it as a base from which to fight the slave trade. For this purpose he saved 6 million gold francs, equivalent to that sum in dollars now, which he entrusted to Stephen Girard, an American ship captain. After the treacherous capture of Toussaint, Girard would not turn over this money to Toussaint's family. During his 9 months' imprisonment, Toussaint was tormented by Napoleon's agents to reveal the hiding place of the money. Later Girard, a Frenchman by birth, became the richest American of his day. He left millions on his death in 1831 for the founding of Girard College in Philadelphia, stipulating that it should be for whites only. He also gave money to buy coal for the poor of Philadelphia, with the same provision. 78. Jean-Francois, leader of the Haitian blacks in 1791, an ex-slave and once superior officer of Toussaint Louverture, rose to be a grandee of Spain. This gave him the privilege of calling the King of Spain cousin, and wearing his hat in the royal presence. He was a favorite at the court of Madrid. 79. Napoleon had 12 West Indian Negro generals, who served in France, namely, General Alexander Dumas, once Napoleon's superior officer, André Rigaud, Marshal Besse, B. Olivier, Antoine Claulat, J. B. Belly, Magloire Pelage, Alex Pétain, A. Chanlate, Barthélemy, Villate, and Etienne V. Mentor. 80. Muhammad Ahmed, called the Mahdi, an ex-waiter of the Sudan, defeated every army that England sent against him, one of which was 11,000 strong. At his death in 1885, he had carved out for himself an empire in Africa, 1,600 miles long and 700 miles wide. Among those killed by the Mahdi was the famous English general, Chinese Gordon. 81. One of the most daring leaders of the Filipinos against the American troops in the Philippines in 1899 was an American Negro deserter, named Fagin. A short story based on his life by Roland Thomas, noted American writer, won first prize of $10,000 in A. Pages 2 to 3 of 74. 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro with Complete Proof. Nationwide Contest in 1914. 82. General A. Dodds, a Senegalese, was France's best-known soldier, prior to the First World War. In 1901, as the senior general he commanded for a brief time the Allied Army, white Americans, Germans, British, French, and Japanese, against the Boxers in China. The Germans, unable to tolerate that, hurriedly sent out a field marshal. 83. Captain of the Navy S.H. Mordenal, an unmixed Negro, commanded the air defenses of Paris from 1916 to 1918, with 205 planes and 10,000 white men under him. It was he who located and destroyed the Big Berthas that used to bombard Paris from a distance of 60 to 80 miles. 84. The leader of the last successful Cuban revolt in 1933 was Fulgencio Batista, a Negro sergeant from Orient Province, who was later president of the Republic. Warfare, Men. 85. The United States has had 7 big wars, exclusive of Indian ones. The Negro has distinguished himself in all of them. In the last war, France awarded the Croix de Guerre to 4 whole Negro regiments, the 369th, 370th, 371st and 372nd, as well as to the 1st Battalion of the 367th, 60 Negro officers and 350 non-commissioned officers and men were decorated for valor. 41 Negroes have received the Congressional Medal of Honor for bravery. 86. In the American Civil War, the Negro played a role similar to that of America in the Last World War. That is, both provided a balance of power that brought victory to one side. Without the aid of the Negro, there might have been no United States now. Abraham Lincoln said 4 times that without the Negro it would be impossible for the North to win. This statement is all the more striking since Lincoln, in response to popular prejudice, steadfastly refused at first to employ Negro troops though the South was doing so. Instead, he wanted to ship the Negroes away and in 1862 had Congress to vote $600,000 to send the first installment to the Isle de Vache in Haiti. The colony ended in disastrous failure and Lincoln sent a ship for the surviving Negro deportees. 87. 178,975 Negro soldiers fought in the Union Army between 1861 to 1865. There were 161 Negro regiments as follows: 141 infantry, 7 cavalry, 12 heavy artillery, and 1 light artillery. The total number of Negroes aiding the Union Army was perhaps twice that number. 88. The number of free Negroes in the United States, who fought to perpetuate slavery, is not exactly known, but there must have been thousands. In June 1861, Tennessee began to recruit Negroes between the ages of 18 and 50. South Carolina did the same in 1862. In a review of 28,000 Confederate troops held at New Orleans on November 23, 1861, 7 months after the outbreak of war, there was one regiment of 1,400 free Negroes. Preston Roberts, a Negro, was unofficial quartermaster of General Nathaniel Forrest. He was given the Cross of Honor, the highest Confederate medal, and until his death in 1910 was treated in all respects like a white man in the South. 89. The national hero of Buenos Aires, now the city of Buenos Aires, was Antonio Ruiz, El Negro Falucho, who died rather than let the rebels pull down the flag of Buenos Aires and hoist that of Spain on the night of February 3, 1810. A magnificent monument stands to his honor in that city. 90. The first two Americans to be decorated by France in the First World War were Henry Johnson and Needham Roberts, both Negroes. Johnson killed 4 Germans and wounded 28 others single-handed. Miscellaneous. 91. The most ancient names for so-called black people are Nehisu, or Nubian, Ethiopian, and more from ancient Egypt, and Negro, or Negrita from West Africa. All the above are native African words. Negro is probably the oldest, as the Negritos are the oldest known branch of the human race. Negro comes from the river Niger. Niger found its way into Latin, and since the people from that region were dark-skinned, Niger, Nigra, Nigrum came to mean black. Negro, Negrito, Negrita means the people of the great river. Black and colored, like white, are, on the other hand, European words. Ethiopian and Moor were popularly used to describe the so-called blacks until 1500. Shakespeare uses Negro only once and uses it synonymously with Moor. Africa comes from the ancient Egyptian Afro-American, or Kafrika, the land of the Kafir. 92. The English word, admiral, and the French equivalent, amiral, were adopted as the result of the great admiration held for the Negroid sea rovers who used to scour the coasts of Europe for slaves as late as the 19th century. It comes from Amir al-Bahr, Lord of the Seas, the commander of the sea rovers. The principal port of the latter was Salé, Morocco. A United States squadron, under Commodore Decatur, went to Africa to free the white Americans held there as slaves. 93. Ex-Kaiser Wilhelm II had a Negro uncle by adoption. His grandfather, Wilhelm I, adopted a Negro boy given him by an African explorer as his son. Henri Noël, as he was called, grew up in the royal palace, and was an officer in the German army. 94. The chief Back to Africa leaders were Paul Cuffey, Major Martin R. Delaney, African explorer, Pop Singleton, William Ellis, Chief Sam, Dr. Thorne, and Marcus Garvey. The last named had a following much greater than the rest combined. 95. Tony Simpson, a humble Louisiana Negro, posing as Prince Antonio Apache of Arizona, became the social lion of the elite of New York and Philadelphia in 1903. Among those who feted him in their drawing rooms or in the Golden Horseshoe at the Metropolitan Opera were Mrs. John Jacob Astor, Mrs. Howard Gould, and Mrs. John R. Drexel. Even President Theodore Roosevelt was taken in. The latter consulted Prince Apache several times on Indian affairs at the White House. The prince was tall and imposing, dressed like a Beau Brummel, and had the manners of a Chesterfield. He used to wear a wig attached to a tuft of his own woolly hair. 96. After his famous speech at the Atlanta Exposition in 1895, Booker T. Washington refused an offer of $50,000 for a series of lectures, because it would interrupt his work at Tuskegee, which was bringing him much less. 97. Haywood Shepherd, a free Negro, was the first person killed by John Brown's party of white and Negro raiders at Harper's Ferry in their efforts to free the slaves in 1859. Shepherd, while running off to arouse the white people, was shot dead in his tracks. 98. The blacks, like the whites, have been struggling for thousands of years to change their hair from its natural form. Negroes arranged their hair with hot irons in Egypt more than 5,000 years ago. 99. An American Negro has 20 chances to a white American's one of reaching 100 years and over. 100. Since 1460 AD or earlier, the Negroes of Seville, Spain, had been wearing in the religious procession on the feast of Corpus Christi, a white robe and hood, strikingly like that used by the Ku Klux Klan, which originated 428 years later. Proof. In presenting proof of the 100 amazing facts about the Negro, I felt that it would not be enough to say that I had met this or that person or seen this or that thing in a museum or an ancient ruin. I have tried rather to give recorded proof, that is, a book in which they were mentioned. Books in foreign languages were cited only when there were no English translations at all, or such translations were poor or abridged. Of pictures, which will be even more convincing, I have a large number. Among them are Saint Maurice, the coins of Hannibal of Carthage, the Negro Buddhas, Christs, and Virgin Marys, Delphos, founder of the great Delphic Oracle of Greece, the Negro daughter of Maria Theresa, Queen of France, Negro gods in America before Columbus, and a collection of very Negroid rulers of Egypt, all of which, together with several hundred other noted Negroes, may be seen in Sex and Race, Volumes 1, 2 and 3. Answers to quiz. The Afro-American group has a greater percentage of women than men. In 1930 there were 1,027 white men for every 1,000 white women and only 970 Negro men for every 1,000 colored women. The 1930 census says, differing from all other races, the Negroes have shown an excess of females at every census since and including that of 1840. The relative excess of females in 1930 was greater than that shown at any previous census except that of 1870. The Indian population has shown an excess of males. Volume 2, page 94. The effect of this is far-reaching and significant. Since the birth rate of a population is determined, not by the percentage of males, but of the females, the Negro group is. Pages 2 to 3 of 74.